Hello and welcome back to Parker's Pitstop. Today I have with me someone who is also a very quick driver. Hails from England and he is Dan Brewer. Say hello, Dan.
Hello, thank you for having me.
That's no problem. So, as I ask all of my guests as the first question, where and when did sim racing begin for you?
Oof. I got Iracing probably maybe 6 or 7 years ago now, in 2010, 2011, something like that. So I started on the Cody's F1 games, moved over to iRacing. It got a bit expensive, especially for someone that was about 13 years old. Um, so I moved over to R Factor 2, started doing Formula Sim racing, and it sort of picked up from there. Found a team and a great bunch of guys that I still, spend a lot of my time with online, and it just moved forward from there.
Lovely. So it's a bit of a unique way going from Cody's through to iRacing, then off to iRacing, then off to R Factor 2. So it's a very different way to do it. That's quite like that. So what series are you currently competing in?
So on R Factor 2, I am doing WCS League. In the GP3 series. I haven't got time to do the other one. And I'm also doing the Iracing Grand Prix series and going for pro at the end of the year. Well, that's the plan at least.
Lovely. So obviously, is that the aim to go up for the Drivers' World Championship in iRacing someday, or is it just baby steps for now?
Definitely, we're doing the pro series at the end of the year, so hopefully we'll be in World Championship by March or whenever it starts.
Lovely stuff. So it's great aims to have there. And obviously WCS League, you're just in F3 for now. What are you aiming for in that championship? Obviously it's a very competitive championship. I've seen a few races of it and it looks very, very competitive. What are your aims for that championship over there?
Well, at the start of the season, we thought, well, I didn't really have much time to do it. Basically, James Kirk, who runs Enterprise GP, he actually went to the same school as me. And he just sort of popped up on my Facebook, do you want to drive in this for me? And I was like, yeah, that'd be fun. So at the start of the year, we thought maybe we could win the championship. We have had very good pace, but we haven't had a single clean round yet. So quite a long way behind now, just looking for race wins. I've won the last two races, or the last two race ones that I've done. So it's going better. We've got we work well as a team. I like my new teammate. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Antonio. It's quite interesting for me because usually I'm the one building the setups, especially when I come and do a series like this. But he's pretty much done it all for me. I've just rocked up on race day and driven the thing, and it's worked quite well, especially yesterday.
Lovely stuff. So obviously gaining traction in that series. Obviously, you said the start of the season wasn't great. What's your aim in terms of championship position for WCS?
Honestly, I'd have to have a look at the standings, but I think like the top 5 get trophies or something like that, so that'd be nice. There's still, to be honest, there's still 8 rounds left. Anything can happen, and we've definitely got a massive pace advantage. I mean, we got pole at Monza by 4/10 last night, so I don't know, maybe top 3.
Yeah,
but obviously the aim is to win all the time. So
absolutely, yeah. So obviously race by race, obviously go for a win, and then top 3. Why not? It gives you something to aim towards, and then it's not exactly a bad position to finish top 3 of a championship, especially one like that. Lovely stuff. So I know you've obviously raced at FSR and GPWC in the last year or so. Why have you moved on from those leagues? Is there any particular issues you've had with them, or is it just not enough time? What's the deal with those two?
So for me, FSR was always the main sort of, it was the focus. And I won't go into it in too much detail, but the politics got quite frustrating for us as a team. And the competitive nature of the league sort of went downhill a little bit. I mean, if you cast yourself back sort of 5 years ago, you had Huis, Morand, and all these quality drivers.
Yeah.
That were basically untouchable. And now, I mean, it's no disrespect to the guys in there at all. Like now, Mohammed Patel, who's leading the championship currently, is one of the best drivers I've ever raced against. But for example, if I practiced 300, 400 laps a few years ago, I'd be breaking top 10 just about. And this season at Australia, I did just under 40 laps before the race and I got on the podium. And that's not, for me, that's not really right. For GPVWC, I mainly did it for experience, actually. Last year to help with FSR. We didn't really plan to move on until after last season, But the competition's on iRacing at the moment, which is unfortunate because it's more expensive, and I don't actually think the cars drive as nicely. But it's where the competition is. There's also quite a bit of money in it if you do very well. So we want to push ourselves to the limit, and that's where you've got to be to do that at the moment.
Absolutely, and in fact, you've actually just touched on my next question. Actually, I was going to say, so you said that the cars don't drive as well on iRacing. So is that you saying that rFactor 2 is your preferred one, or does iRacing have some pros to it as well?
Well, the problem is that in a perfect world, we'd have everything with iRacing, but replaced by the cars in rFactor 2, because everything else in iRacing is better. The way the online works, the competition, obviously, the tracks are obviously all laser scanned, so they're brilliant. Lag usually is a bit better, but that's debatable. It depends really. It's much better optimized as well, so it's much easier to run, which also means it's graphically a lot better. But I don't know, the force feedback's a little bit down, and the tires don't. Well, they don't work how firstly I want them to work, but they also don't work how I feel they should. Compared to real life, I think rFactor 2 has this very specific feeling which you don't get anywhere else, especially through the force feedback. That iRacing simply can't match at the moment. It is improving, but it's nowhere near so far.
Absolutely. In fact, on one of my previous shows, I've spoken about this with Neil Heckens about how iRacing are constantly improving, but unfortunately, they're not quite there yet. But fingers crossed, it'll all be improved in the future. Obviously, you are focusing on the McLaren, if I'm right. So obviously, that's a very sensitive car to try and sort out on the force feedback.
Honestly, it's an absolute. I hate it. I really dislike driving it, but at the end of the day, like I said, I'm there to push myself and there to find the best competition, and that's where it is at the moment. But that thing is so sensitive, especially on the tires. I tell you what, if you want to challenge, do your first sort of GP series race or whatever in that car, and you'll think you practiced all week, you think you got to a good pace, you wait till you get to about lap 20 and see what the tyres do to you. It's someone else.
Yeah, I can imagine. Even back when it was the Williams, I haven't raced iRacing personally for about 3 or 4 years now, but even back when it was the Williams, it wasn't the easiest beast to tame. And I've heard some good things about the McLaren, I've heard some bad things, and obviously I think I know where your opinion lies on that one. So you said you've been part of a team. Do you want to elaborate a bit more on that? Who are the guys that you race with mainly?
Yeah, so it originated on FSR. It's Origin Front Row Racing. So we won the Drivers and Constructors Championship in FSR last year. So that was a pretty successful year. We obviously we decided to make the move to iRacing. So now it's mainly just myself and Jeroen Kwekel, who won the FSR World Championship last year. There are a couple of I still talk to all my old teammates, but they've all moved on to things other than the Grand Prix series in iRacing. So you've got a couple of guys doing GTs, who we still have, in group chats, Skype chats, or whatever. But they have moved on to other teams. If they were to come back to the F1, then they'd jump straight back into a green car. But yeah, for me, I'm quite happy at the moment. A lot of people think you need a big sort of, a big base of a member base, basically, of 10, 15 people to actually work well. But me and Jeroen work very, very well together, especially from we carried it over from the FSR, the last few rounds where we had to properly fight for the constructors. Carried over from there, and I don't know, it just seems to work. Mainly he makes the changes, I test them and tell him what to do. But yeah.
Obviously, if you can find a teammate like that works, that's actually a really good thing. And I think it's a bit similar to other teams I've raced at before. Obviously, I'm not the best at setups, I'll admit that. I'm pretty naff, but I'm quite good at finding what's wrong with them, if you know what I mean. So I can tell you if too much understeer, too much oversteer, give it to my person, bang, okay, it feels a lot better now. And if you can find someone, like you said, with your own, who you work really well with, you can find that, everyone benefits really at the end of the day. Like you said, well, she won the championship, well, not you yourself, but the team won the championship last year in FSR, which is obviously, like you said, it has gone downhill a little bit, but it is still the most prestigious rFactor 2 league, arguably, around. So it's not exactly a bad place to be. So I understand you're part of the management team for Origin. What challenges do you face as part of that, or is it quite simple job?
Well, right now it's quite simple because I've only got one driver to keep control of, really. Well, not including myself, but obviously, yeah. It was, I don't know, it's quite an interesting one because the role sort of came about. It wasn't like they selected me as part of management. It was so the team was formed by Ryan Winsper, and we merged with a guy called Peter Bell, who I'm sure a few of you know. that he basically acquired a World Championship license, and we, provided the drivers for him. Essentially, merged the two teams that we had, which is why Origin Sim Racing became Origin Front Row Racing. And basically, Ryan didn't have much time to stick around, and Peter doesn't drive, and he was very uninformed in the whole situation and everything. So I was sort of his, go-to guy in terms of information, and it just, one thing led to another, and then he was sort of asking me to do management tasks for him. And then at the end of the day, it was I'm basically his manager. He's the owner, the boss, and I'm his right-hand man, essentially. But now that we've only got two drivers to keep control of, it's quite easy. And we've always had great guys. We've always prided ourselves on, taking the correct drivers, and we've never really had any issues with any of our own drivers.
Must be a good reflection of your management style then. Yeah, that's good then. Obviously, having a smaller team, like I said, it feels a bit more personal, a bit more like a family. If you've got like 10 or 12 people in the team, it can be a bit difficult, and you've got to try and find people if one goes AWOL, and lots of things happen. But yeah, I mean, having 2 people in the team is pretty nice and cozy. So, like you said, you started on Codemasters F1 games, and then you've obviously gone to iRacing for R-Factor 2 and back to iRacing. What part of your career, as it were, do you look fondly on? Is there anything you've learned over the years that you still take to this day, or are there still things that you think you may need to learn and work on?
But there's always something to learn. That's the main thing. I think in terms of my driving, at the end of last season in FSR definitely picked me up. I really had to... Cuba, who was racing a World Championship for us, had to step down. And I hadn't really driven the car all year. It was quite hard to learn. It was quite a tough car to get your head around. And I think people in my team will back me up on this as well. I really had a big change in my mentality in a way that it was actually Jeroen sort of hammered things into me. It was you get these people that, I should have got this, but this happened. I should have come first, but this happened, and that's you can't think of it like that, because as soon as you think of it like that, the same thing will happen again. But even if so, there have been a couple of times where I've been, say 6th on the grid, and I've been taken out, and I've qualified 6th, and I said to Jeroen, I'd be like, just let me look how unlucky that is. He'd just say to me, you should have been on pole.
And to be honest, some people, that really does help people. Like I said, mentality, I think, is underrated in sim racing. You could be the quickest guy, you could be the most talented guy, whatever. If your race head isn't on, and like you say, you get taken out, you can demotivate you, and one thing will lead to another, and it all goes wrong. But I think that's quite an important, really, lesson actually, to learn that the mental state. If you're good mentally, you may not be the most talented, but you might be able to take advantage of things. You might be able to have a clearer head for the race, and when it comes to a battle, for example, you'll be a lot more clearer, and hey, benefits. So 2017. Obviously, we're going towards the end of it now. What's the goal for the rest of your year?
So finish off WCS League. I'm mainly doing it to rake in some points for James, but I'm actually enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. And then the iRacing Pro Series starts. I think it starts at the beginning of November, maybe the end of October. So yeah, focus on that really. I was going to have a big shot at World's Fastest Gamer, but I think the car's absolutely rubbish. So that threw that out the window. But yeah, the main focus is to qualify for the iRacing World Championship, and it's going to be tough because the grid is very strong and we haven't had much time in the car. But we'll throw all we got at it.
Absolutely, and yeah, I was going to touch on World's Fastest Gamer. So that's definitely no, not happening. I mean, I tried the car for one lap, and I thought, it wasn't my rig. It was one of my mates, funnily enough. But I'm not going to lie, it did feel a bit rubbish. So that's a no from you.
Well, I have actually been driving it today.
Well.
Yeah, I don't know. I drove it at Silverstone, and firstly, what I don't like is it isn't fixed setup, which I think is silly because I can understand the logic behind it. How their idea is, they want someone with engineering brains, but at the same time, the first thing they haven't realised is R-Factor 2 setup doesn't work like real life setup. You have to learn R-Factor 2 setup on top of learning real life setup. Because
I've got a few people who will back you up on that. Yeah,
exactly. And the second reason that open setup isn't good is because now you've just got people, you've got 7 or 8 people all just doing everything together, and that's not quite fair on especially someone like me. I haven't got anyone doing it really. So it's quite tough in that sense. But personally, I think the car is actually one of the worst I've ever driven on R-Factor 2. There's no feeling in it at all. You have to drive very unnaturally to go quickly. And there's a lot of sliding. And if you watch GTs in real life, they don't slide. Or what I mean, they might do, but they're going slowly if they do.
Yeah, absolutely. You're still losing your time. But I think I did read something today that actually I think they might be taking a few qualifiers over to Iracing. Would you be a bit more interested in it then if it was on Iracing?
Well, I've literally been told about this about 5 minutes before I did this interview. Apparently, they're doing a series in the McLaren, as in the F1 McLaren, a 4-race series. I mean, to be honest, even if I didn't think I'd be that competitive, I probably should still do it because it's good preparation for Pro Series and for next year. But like I said, we haven't had much time in the car, and I can't really compare my pace to those guys in World Championship. But I'd say there's probably at least 15 guys in there that would walk all over me at the moment. So I mean, I'd give it a shot, but I don't think it'd be likely that I'd make it through.
Well, like I said, you can use it for practice for the Pro Series and fingers crossed the Grand Prix Series, and then going on to the World Championship. So there's a silver lining in all of this. We'll have one more final question. So obviously the plan for next year, fingers crossed for you, Drivers' World Championship. Will that be your sole focus for next year, or would you dabble in R-Factor 2, maybe stay with WCS League or any other leagues?
It would be my main focus. I said to when James asked me to drive, I said to him, I'm probably I'll probably tail off towards the end of the season as well because I've got the Pro Series. But to be honest, what I love about the WCS League, especially compared to everything that I've done in R-Factor 2, everything that I've done has been very, very competitive and very political. I'm not saying that WCS League isn't competitive, but they're a really great bunch of guys, and it's actually quite interesting because I don't know, it puts a smile on my face a little bit because everything runs how it should run, which is something that I've never really experienced before. Even all the stewarding decisions, I completely agree with every single one, and it just, for me, that's never happened before. So I find that quite crazy. But yeah, I like how open it is. I like how relaxed it is. So we'll see.
Lovely stuff. And if you can find, like I've always said in the past, if you can find a league that you really love and really enjoy being part of, like I said, you're focused on WCA and on iRacing, sorry, but if you want to have a dabble in R-Factor 2, why not? Just have a one-off race, and at the end of the day, it's all about fun, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right, lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Dan, for joining me today. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
So obviously this is Parker's Pit Stop with Dan Brewer. If you want to see any more shows from SimNews.TV, for example, the Scrutineer, Super Cup Show, Super League Show, iRacing Weekly, head on to our Facebook page and also our YouTube channel and you'll find more information there. I've been Tom Parker and this has been Parker's Pit Stop. Thank you very much.